All right,
The pleasure is mine.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. You've done so much for us, inspired all of us. All right, I want to just get this going because we're already behind by a few minutes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar brought to you by Lasric, which is the Lagos State Innovation, Science and Innovation Research Council. And I am very, very pleased to be here. My name is Edwin Ajogun. I am the country director for Eco Innovation Center, which is also part of the GBM group. And I'm pleased to be here to be able to bring all of us to understand what is going on with the Lagos State's drive to invest in innovation and research, and also to place Lagos State in where it's supposed to be when it regards to being at the forefront of developing the best talent and the best products in research and innovation in the world. Just want to give you a little bit of background. Lasric is, again, like I said, is the Lagos State Science Research and Innovation Council. Of course, they are the arm of the government that is really invested in ensuring that every innovation and research that is being going into developing technology and developing science and developing STEM is funded. It gets the amount of funding and the amount of backup by the government that it needs to have. Right. Up to today, they've been able to fund about 73 projects in research, innovation, STEM, and of course startups. And they have been able to give people amount of money, what's about 400 million naira. They've done this in about 3 cohorts between 2020 and 2022, and currently they are opening the 4th cohort, which is currently going. And I think if you are here listening to this, you should go and apply. So why Lagos? Why is Lagos State really why is Lagos State investing in science and technology, you may ask? You may think that we have other issues or we have other things that we should be doing, but really, technology is the way forward, is the new oil, is the new frontier globally. And we cannot, at any case, in any way, in any circumstance, neglect the development of technology from a talent point of view, from the infrastructure point of view, from access, and even from funding. We cannot ignore it. We always have to be at the forefront of innovating and, of course, driving innovation and driving all the entrepreneurs and innovators who are out there who are doing their bit to push Lagos State or put Lagos State in the map with regards technology and innovation and adoption. Of course, globally, there's been a kind of a bit of an appetite in investing here in Africa. Nigeria was able to attract about $1.2 billion worth of investment out of the total investment, about 4.7 that was invested in Africa. And Lagos State government, in Lagos State, we were able to see that 70% of that funding was domiciled in startups and innovators that are based here. So that's a very, very high amount. And this is the reason why Lagos State is really putting, its backing, its energy behind everyone that is, targeted at building solutions and building products, and even trying to advance the research and innovation within this particular space, right? And of course, we know what's going on with the Ukraine, and we know what's going on globally when it comes to conflicts that's happening in Europe, and of course involving NATO and the US. And we're asking ourselves, where will the future of technology advancement be? And of course, everybody knows that there's an appetite from investors globally to really put their money here in Africa. And even in Africa, from the trends we are seeing, Nigeria is the most attractive country for investment. We have seen that we have built so many unicorns from Flutterwave to Andela to Opay. We have so many companies that are really doing so well. And as on the part of the government, they want to be able to, put in more money to invest in research and innovation to ensure that we produce not just more companies like that, but also more innovators and innovative thinkers, right? So in a nutshell, we are really working so hard, right? So from what I do understand about Lagos State, our plan and our strategy towards the plan and the strategy from Lagos State government point of view in ensuring that the technology has the right attention is in fourfold. One, of course, is providing access to funding and research. The other one is about providing the proper infrastructure. Of course, there's always the talent part of point of view, and of course, access. And you might ask why access and why access, why all of this. But the thing is that all these four parts, if you do not have, there needs to be synergy between talent development, between talent development, providing access to those talents to be able to build the right products by ensuring that they have the right data, and of course, providing infrastructure like the power, roads, and all these things to ensure that they are well and comfortable to be here, to be able to reside in the Lagos State, to be able to, push forward whatever innovation that they have thinking of, and they can be able to build. And of course, to always have right funding from the government, which is the area that Lasric is playing in, and they are very, very serious and very, very meticulous about how they are really ensuring that everyone who has an idea, who has a fantastic innovation, has the right funding and the right backing from the government to be able to do that. And this is not done anywhere else. This is fantastic that Lagos State is doing this, and I'm proud to be part of that process through Eco Innovation Center through GDM. So, to start this program and to really get into it, and let's bring the Lasric team to talk to us about what they are doing and how they are doing it. I would like to call as our first speaker for today, Mr. Tubosun Alake, who is the Special Advisor to the Governor on Innovation and New Technology, and is also a very, very important Lasric Council member. He'll be taking the floor in a few seconds. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome, and we're eager to hear what you have to say, sir. So you're mute. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Clearly, sir.
Okay, great. Good morning to everybody. Thank you very much, Edwin, for that introduction. It's really, really good that you are also part of the ecosystem through the work you do at Eco Innovation. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Lasric webinar. I am enthused and of course, very glad to have a lot of our partners in the room, as well as stakeholders within the ecosystem. In a nutshell, Lasric is really Lagos State's government's intervention body into the innovation and science research ecosystem. Lasric formally started operations in February of 2020, after the governor initiated with a seed funding of about 250 million naira in 2019. And since that period, Lasric has been intervening in the different sectors within the ecosystem. Lasric is driven by three major pillars. Number one is science research and the intervention into the science research ecosystem, particularly pertaining to higher institutions, because we know that these institutions of learning, they are harbingers of knowledge, as well as the tools that are required for knowledge to increase. And so Lasric is a partner with most of the universities within the Lagos environment, and we intervene quite a bit on research work going on there. To date, we have funded about 50 research initiatives across 5 main universities in Lagos: the University of Lagos, LASU, Yaba College of Technology, Lagos Poly, which is now the Lagos State's University of Science and Technology, and of course, the Research Center of Excellence. We have done quite a bit of work with different universities in different research projects across the research sector. In fact, in mid-2020, Lasric got its first, or actually mid-2021, Lasric got its first patent. It was awarded by the Patent Office in Abuja. And this patent was for the invention of a dual motor ambubag ventilator, a ventilator that was invented by a multidisciplinary team of researchers and inventors within University of Lagos. And we are quite proud of that invention. A locally made ventilator that could be deployed to both suburban and urban areas in Lagos. And of course, an invention that was engineered particularly with the price point, because if we are very familiar with medical devices, ventilators are one of the most expensive equipment for respiratory alleviation, especially when it comes to respiratory illnesses like COVID-19. And so engineering a product that was cost-effective for our market was a priority. And this was one of the one of the projects that we partnered with the University of Lagos. So there are a myriad of other research projects that Lasric does. And we are quite proud to say that we are driving the research capacity and discipline in Lagos State. The second main pillar that Lasric is driven by is innovation and intervention within the innovation and startup ecosystem. Lasric primarily funds startups with minimum viable products across the different sectors, from health tech to fintech to construction tech and other areas within the innovation space. We all know that this is an extremely viable and growing sector, now a significant attractor of FDI into Lagos State. And Lagos State is poised to see this sector grow even more than it is now. And Lagos State has its skin in the game within this sector. And so we've funded quite a few startups as well within the different sectors, from health tech, agri-tech, even construction tech solutions. The Lasric really is really looking at driving minimum viable products, making sure that these startups have the initial runway to help them even grow their businesses. And as we know, minimum viable products means that, customers are willing to pay for those products. This is a product that is working. And even if, you have customers paying ₦1 for that, it's a candidate for, it could be a candidate for a Lasric grant. So we are very much involved within the startup ecosystem as well. The third pillar that Lasric is driven by is STEM, so science, technology, engineering, math. And we primarily fund STEM companies that intervene within the secondary school and primary school space. We realize that STEM education is very important to drive innovation. It's very important to drive science research. And we are particularly proud of some of our STEM beneficiaries who are intervening within the primary and the secondary school space to encourage STEM courses and STEM education. The Lasric process is very simple. From time to time, we have open call-outs that we publish on our websites and different social media locations. Research projects, researchers in universities and startups and STEM companies can see these call-outs, read the instructions, and apply for Lasric grants where applicable. We believe this is, we are really democratizing the grant space, making sure that, companies, startups, apologies, I think I was cut off there. Once you see the call out and you see the instructions and they apply to you, please do apply on our website, which will be put up later in the course of our talk. And if you do match the criteria or you meet the standards, you'll be called for an interview before a committee panel. And so I want to wish all the innovators, the researchers that are in our midst, that there is hope for us to drive innovation, research, STEM, and most especially value creation within the Lagos State environment. Thank you very much. And again, welcome to today's Lasric webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's again wonderful to hear from you. I mean, you are one of the biggest champions of innovation, not just in Lagos, but in Nigeria as a whole. And we really appreciate the work you're doing, and we hope that we get to see more of you, especially within the Lasric narrative, of course, driving funding across all the platforms for startups and innovators. Thank you so much, sir. Up next, I'm going to call again someone that I respect so much. Someone that has done a lot in this ecosystem. One of the founding, I like to refer him as one of the founding fathers of the tech ecosystem in Nigeria. And of course, he's also a Lasric council member, appropriately. And I would like to call for him to speak on the topic of assessing Lasric funds for innovation. Mr. Tommy Davis, aka what's the word? TD, TD for short. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very, very much. I'd like to first and foremost just thank everybody for being here. And I would like to thank Mr. Governor for being quite open-minded about our use of state funding for innovation. He's been a very consistent backer, and that is, well, in these climes, it's a tough one. So we appreciate him. Having said that, what we're aiming to do with the Innovation Fund at Lasric is very, very simple, for me at least, is to use innovation to create jobs. To me, those are sort of the two legs on which our grant system funding and everything we do in Lasric is centered around, is creating the kind of jobs that are sustainable over the long haul, using innovation to solve problems for Lagosians. And to do that, we've sort of centered on specific areas that we believe would actually benefit from bringing the minds of Lagosians to bear on solving those problems. Before I get into the mechanics of how you apply and what you do, I thought it's best to sort of bring it to life with example. And the example I want to share with the audience today is a young man by the name of Nicholas Ajana. And what Nicholas and his team saw in Lagos, which we all see, is now pure water plastic be this, pure water plastic everywhere, and plastic, you know, people dragging it, mountain heaps of plastic. What are we going to, what can we do with this? Well, until I met them, I didn't know there was something actually called WPC. WPC is wood plastics composite. And it is actually taking plastic and merging it with the shavings of wood, what is left when you cut wood and the residuals. And what they do is they bring both of these together to make bricks. So all of a sudden, we're cleaning up the city by getting rid of the plastic, but we're not putting it up in heaps. We're actually making them into bricks that are now being used. There's a part of Ikorodu Road, okay, that it's been tested on, and their housing being built. So when we talk about innovation, these are the kind of things we're looking for in Lagos State, are things that are going to help build out the wealth of our people while at the same time creating jobs. So for us, we're looking at innovation in terms of manufacturing. We're looking at healthcare and health tech. We're looking at renewable energy, green energy. Most importantly, we're also looking at agriculture and agri-tech. And there are different aspects of this that we encourage anybody that is working in that space. Like I said, the critical criteria is that, one, it is an essential. So this is not, we're looking for people who will benefit millions of Lagosians, if possible, with whatever it is they're doing. Those are the people we want to back. And somebody asked me and says, oh, so all you people are doing is tech? No, that's why I used the WPC example. We're not just backing technology, we're backing innovation. And it's about applying it to significant problems that affect our people in Lagos. So that's what the Innovation Fund is all about. Now, how do you apply? They're going to show you the website. Okay, if you're working innovation, all you need, first of all, if you're over 5 years old, you're too old. You should, if you're a 5-year-old business, you should be doing real stuff. We're looking to encourage those just coming up. And I'm not saying just the young ones, although our emphasis is on youth. And we are focusing increasingly on trying to get the women to also participate as business founders in this particular space. So we're a bit partial to them. But other than being a youthful organization that is Lagos-based, like the essay said, the criteria minimum, you will see them on the website. Please apply. We're closing on the 30th for this our round. It's 5 million naira in terms of grant, and we take you through a structure. And in fact, from the feedback I get from some of those who have participated actually in the processes, they actually also learn about their own companies by participating in the process. So the process itself is also a value add. I hope that has helped, and thank you very much for listening.
So much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. That was very, very, very insightful. I really, really, really enjoy listening to you, and I think everyone does too. Thank you so much. So next, we're going to be moving on to a professor par excellence. His main strength are in research, and his name is Professor Martins A. Anetekai, and he's going to be speaking to us on assessing Lasric funds for research projects. Professor, you have the floor, sir.
Okay. Edwin, I don't believe Professor Anetekai is online.
No, he's online. I think it's, but anyway, we'll be moving on to the next speaker. So while we're trying to sort out Professor Anetekai's microphone, we're moving on to listening to someone from the Innovation Support Network, NECA. Are you online? can you please signify so that we can be able to unmute your mic and you can come and speak to us on how we can contribute the future plan of the innovation hubs to the development in Lagos State?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Clearly. Nice to meet you, Nneka.
Nice to meet you. I think we've exchanged some emails. Good morning,
Yes,
everybody. I'm so honored to be here. I'd like to thank Lasric, Eco Innovation Center, TD, my great chairman, Prof. Bankole, and every other person on the call. To also, of course, and all our dear friends at Lasric. So I'll just be speaking very briefly on what the innovation hubs are planning to do within Lagos as well as in Nigeria generally. So I work with Innovation Support Network, we're Nigeria's largest network of innovation, entrepreneurship, and technology hubs. The hubs support the startups and we support the hubs. We drive policy, create and deploy programs, and more importantly, create linkages to help facilitate the actualization of innovation through hubs across the country. Like TD said, the equation is very simple for us. Innovation equals jobs, jobs equal dignified livelihoods, and a better quality of life for all of us. What we're looking at doing in Lagos over the next 3 to 5 years. Lagos, because we're based in Lagos, and then because it's a very enabling environment. And it's always easy to start projects from places where the soil is soft, so to speak, right? And then it's not easier to roll out those projects onto other locations. So few of things that we're doing within Lagos. First of all, as an organization, as a business member organization, we're actively driving linkages between academia, private sector, public sector, and the hubs. The reason why this is important is we're striving to help support the culture of innovation across the country. And it's not something that should be done in silos. We're all doing, a lot of people are doing great and massive work, incredible work in different places. I mean, TD just mentioned one. And for a lot of people, once you've gone through your prototyping, getting funding, either revenue, debt, or equity may become a challenge. But if we're able to create linkages, for instance, with private sector, there may be private sector participants who are vested in driving those type of innovations, because either for reasons of CSR or to drive corporate innovation. So we need to create a system that enables this type of collaborations and this type of linkages to work seamlessly. Same thing with public sector. Our work with public sector is definitely predominantly around policy, and we're engaging on the national level as well as on the state level to be able to support policies and also develop programs that drive innovation through our hubs, as well as all the other communities that are supporting innovation in the state and across Nigeria. Finally, with academia, there's something we call the hub market synchrony, which we're trying to drive. And that is a loop system that enables tested or developed concepts and products to be tested in market, and then for the market feedback to be sent back to the lab. So it's the lab and market synchrony. Because what we have now is that academia is working in silos. And we all know that our academia in Nigeria is grossly underfunded. The numbers are available compared to other countries. And what happens is when there's no funding, then there's limited R&D. When there's limited R&D, then we can't really get innovation. On the flip side, we see that a lot of small businesses, a lot of startups, even non-tech small businesses are funding their own R&D and they're replicating it. So that's not like the most effective use of resources, especially when that is not your core work. The core work of academia is passing knowledge as well as research and R&D. So it's very critical for us to support this and for us to ensure that it becomes sustainable. If we develop a system, a closed loop system where there is that knowledge transfer from the lab to the market, and the market can give us real live feedback from real customers, right? And we use that data to fine tune our products. Then we get products that really address our challenges, and then we're able to work more seamlessly together. And then that way there's no cannibalization. Everybody knows where they fit in because we see it as a larger picture and we see it as something that we're trying to achieve together. So for us, those are like our overarching things. And one of the things that we're working with Lasric on, as well as a couple of universities within the state, and probably will be announced later on in the year, is a program that enables us with Lasric to support some of these linkages, to be able to drive commercially based innovations out of tertiary institutions supported by corporates, so that we can really facilitate this culture of innovation, not just for innovation's sake, but also for adaptation and adoption's sake, right? Because sometimes we talk of some of these solutions that we're doing, and every year Lasric has very important thematic areas. But those thematic areas, how are they filtering down? Do the schools know about it? Does the woman on the road know about it? So when we talk about driving a culture of innovation, we're not just talking about within our closed spaces or within our ecosystem. We're talking about within the state and developing something that is sustainable and result and impact driven. And again, it's only something that we can do collaboratively amongst the different stakeholders. So that's what we'll be working on with Lasric and with Lagos State over the next couple of years. For the hubs in Lagos, you will definitely be hearing from us in due time, and we look forward to supporting you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nneka. I really appreciate what you're doing at ISN, and I think you are a very, very core pillar in the Lagos State's drive to ensure that every Lagosian has access to the infrastructure that they need to be able to, produce and create innovations from a very secure environment. At this particular stage, I'd like to call on Mr. Peter Bankole. Is also one of the Lasric Council members, and he's going to be speaking to us on assessing Lasric funds for STEM programs. Mr. Bankole, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Peter, before you go on, I just wanted to correct the young man. He's not just another member of the Lasric Council. He is a fundamental member of the Lasric Council and has been with us ab initio. Thank you. I just thought I'd make that correction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for mentioning that, sir.
Not a problem, not a problem. Okay, so thank you very much for putting this together. And I think one of the important things is for the community to actually understand what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do, and how together we'll be able to make a big difference in Lagos State and beyond. The STEM group, basically what we are expecting from those that will be applying through the STEM channels is to focus on 5 things. Beyond what the essay has said, yes, we are focusing on primary school, secondary school, but we are also focusing on out of school, those that are taking care of those that are neither in primary or secondary school. So those 3 verticals are very important. Now, let me go to the kind of STEM proposal that we're looking for. It's best to look at it from an acronym, which we call ARISE. ARISE. So basically, it's something that it's easy to remember. The A in the arise is adaptability. Adaptability. How easy it is that whatever you are proposing to us can easily be adopted by all and sundry. So whatever you are writing, think of adaptability as a key component, because we are going to be looking at that in the proposal that you send. The next is the R, which is relevance. How relevant is your proposal to Lagos State? And this is very key, but also to similar situation or circumstances. So relevance is very key. And like the essay had said, there are some thematic areas that we look at. And so the more you key into those thematic areas, the better, because it increases the relevance coefficient for us. The I in the arise is impact. So whatever we do, the proposal that we submit must be impactful, at least in Lagos first, then beyond. We always, yes, we're careful to look at Lagos all the time because it is Lagos public fund, and we want to be sure that it benefits Lagos first. But we are also mindful of the fact that whatever solution we provide in Lagos will be applicable under similar environment across Nigeria, and maybe even economies similar to us. So the impact is very important. How many people we're able to reach, how many lives we're able to touch, and so on and so forth. Then the S in the arise is scalability. Of course, whatever solution that you bring to the table, if it is not scalable, then there is no point in us investing in it. So we try to look for STEM proposals that are scalable. So we're able to reach more people, do more stuff. And in the ones that we have invested in the last couple of years, we have seen that some of them have gone to win laureates across the continent. And the final one, for us to be very sure, no matter how good your proposal is, no matter how scalable, no matter how adaptable and relevant, if the people behind it cannot drive it, then it doesn't make a lot of difference. So the experience of those that are going to be like the team that works on this, very, very important. So for us, it's all about arise. Adaptability, relevance, impact, scalability, and the experience of the team. Once you can couch this very well, it's very, very likely that you'll be able to access the STEM grant. I wish you all the best and have a wonderful one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I am grateful to speaking to you today. I remember when I first started my journey in the entrepreneurial space, and I remember how me and my friends then, we used to come over to the EDC for lectures and even for support. And I really appreciate the work you've been doing so far. Thank you so much again. So I just went to, we've heard from Lasric about how you can get funding for innovation, for STEM. We'll be able to hear from them to see how you can get funding for innovations and even for your research projects. And this is fantastic, and we can see that Lagos State is really working in this angle to be able to ensure that anyone who has this particular ideas, this particular skill set, any talents that to be able to bring to the fore, to be able to drive innovation and science research here in Lagos State, they are willing to fund you. So again, I want to use this platform to encourage anyone who has not yet applied for the fourth call out to please go and do so on their website. This is very, very important, and we were willing to support you, provide every avenue to ensure that you get you to where you need to be with regards to putting your solution or your product out there. So to the last session, and I want to just make sure that you understand that if you, after all this, if you want to ask questions, please just signify by raising your hand and we'll be able to call you to speak. And if you want to ask by text, you can just send a message to the chat box, and I'll be able to answer questions for all our members, council members that are present today. So next, I would like to call on Professor Amuda of Ambuvent Ventilators. Is one of the recipients, I think, of one recipient of Lasric funding, and I'd like to call him up to please come and speak to us and talk to us about his product, about how Lasric has been supported so far. Professor Amuda.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
It's my pleasure to be in this webinar today. I am pleased with what Lasric is doing, particularly with this webinar. At least it gives an opportunity for beneficiaries and interventionists that Lasric represent to interact and showcase what they have been able to do. My team particularly is very happy to be associated with Lasric, as we shall see in my short presentation as we proceed, what we have been able to benefit from Lasric. Professor Peter Bankole and SSA, they've sort of somehow summarized what my presentation is, we just center on. It is just on two themes. One, the capacity or the ability or the privilege that intervention agency they offer in cascading or in solving societal problem. That is one. Secondly, is the opportunity, as it were, to really solve our national problem within that, and just to demonstrate that we have the capacity. And I think that was what Mr. Tony Davis also alluded to with the team on WPC. So having said that, I think I've been given 5 minutes. So I will make sure that I stick to that, even though I have lectures, but I will still give time so that I can participate in the question and answer session. But I will want to seek your indulgence that once it is 10:55, you will excuse me to go for my class so that I can prepare my materials. Do I have the permission to share my screen? Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. I think you're a host, so I think you should be able to share your screen, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir. My short presentation is just to present on what my team has been able to do with intervention from Lasric. Our team worked on what we now call the ambulatory ventilator system for patients in respiratory distress. As Professor Bankole said, when we were working on this, we never consider a RISE checklist. We worked on the necessity that we need to quickly make intervention in this space. And incidentally, it appears that it was able to fall in line with the RISE adaptability, relevance, impact, scalability, and the experience. So we all know what's happened in the advent of COVID-19. And it came to us that, oh, Nigeria, because of our technological development, level of our technological development, for almost 200 million people, we have less than 500. Even when you want to procure, the supply chain is quite problematic. In fact, at a point in time, the international space was short. And apart from that, we don't have access to affordable ventilator, as it were, an average of 30,000 USD. So how do we go from here? So it now dawned on us that in terms of critical need, the society or Nigeria as it were, particularly Lagos, being the epicenter of the pandemic, is disadvantaged. Whereas we have ecosystem.
Sorry to break you, Prof, but you're not presenting. All we're seeing is
it's just
yeah. We're not seeing anything you're presenting. We're just seeing your folder structure.
Sorry, sir, but I'm sharing. I'm on screen sharing, sir.
Yes, but all we're seeing from your shared screen
is just your folder.
Is your folder, are the folders on your desktop?
No, it's okay. Let me, sorry, but it's on screen sharing here. Let me close and reshare.
So what you can also do is that you can also share the slide in the chat so everyone can be able to access it.
Okay.
So the time, sir.
Okay, no problem. Let me just. Are we seeing it now?
Yes, sir.
Are we seeing it now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. So, okay. So, as I was saying, that was the problem that we were faced with. Extreme cases of COVID infection requiring respiratory intervention, Nigeria having less than 500 in total of standard ventilator to service 200 million people, average cost of 30,000 USD, it is not affordable. Again, there's also supply chain challenge. Then we have the motive that in this extreme case, Nigeria, particularly Lagos, is disadvantaged. Whereas we have ecosystem of intellectual capacity that we can invest. I, for instance, am a materials engineer. I have no experience in respiratory infection. I have no experience in biological system, but here we are that we need to make this intervention. So we need to provide, indigenous solutions that contextualize our needs within available resources become relevant. What is that contextualization? One, affordability. Two, ease of use, because our nurses, our healthcare people, they needed to be trained on the standard ventilator system. This one, because of the urgency of the situation, you don't have that luxury of time for training. So it must be not only affordable, the ease of usage must equally be very, very attractive. So, as we all know, respiratory distress has to do with our ability to work our lungs. And most designs in engineering will take inspiration from biological system. So this is also not different from that. And this is our two-lung system. And we sort of mimic that with this. This is the diaphragm that represents this. And here are the pulling force that we now compress, and then at inhalation, it presses, at exhalation, it relaxes. So this is what we're able to, and we use that, looking at that, we now came up with this, our solution concept, that it must be simple, it must be efficient, it must be affordable, and it must have local content. Our local content in this was almost 95%, except for the motor. So before we move, because we do not have any experience in this space, and there are so many interventions that we see in the world out there, we said in our own case, we must build in capacity that it can also be scaled up. We have ample bag for pediatrics, we have ample bag for adults, and we have ample bag for obese people. So our design should be able to have this flexibility. And that was why we went, this is the most critical aspect of whatever intervention we have. So this is the motor, this is the another motor. The existing one uses a single motor. And in respiratory intervention is a critical life-saving device. Should a motor have fault, it means we lost that patient. So what we have done here is a two-motor system. One can work on its own, and it is also, we can also synchronize it, particularly when the patient is very dear critical condition. We can synchronize and quickly pump enough air, and once that patient is stabilized, we can take it up. Now,
Sorry, sir, sorry to cut you off, sir. Because of time and because we need to take questions, sir, I want to ask, is it possible for you to share this slide in the chat box so that everybody can be able to access to it, so that we can have enough time for people to ask questions?
Let me quickly finish, then I can share it.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. You just have 1 more minute. We have 30 seconds, man.
Okay, I will do that. So this is the demonstration, and we came up with the proof of concept, and then we have our full model integrated. So from there, we went on to develop. This is the calibration, average weight. This is the minimum volume, inhalation, expiration, beat per minute, inhalation time, and the flow rate. So with that, we came up with this. This is the complete prototype that we have developed. And we did it in such a way that it can serve both urban and suburban area, particularly where you do not have a power supply. So that's our achievement. We have a patent. We have detailed engineering that can be used to produce more. You don't need to see me. Once we give you the design, you can. Then we also build capacity in that space. Finally, what we see is that these are the service sector that can use this device. First line intervention, secondary hospitals, tertiary hospital for service and training. It cuts across. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Now, let me make this last statement, please.
Okay, sir.
To us in Unilab, the greatest intervention that we have benefited from here is the opportunity for us to procure clinic equipment to support research, which will enable us to build national capacity and also competencies beyond the intervention. As we speak now, people are already in the lab doing the clinical trials, and we have undergraduate students and clinical students being trained on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, sir. I appreciate you. This is a very fantastic solution you've built, and I'm sure, and I'm aware of a lot of people that have been lives have been saved because of this your invention. And I'm glad that Lasric saw it fit to be able to invest in this and support you financially in getting your products out there. Thank you very much, sir. So there's going to be one more session before we go to the question and answer period. I'm going to invite back Mr. Tobosun Alake to speak on how you can access Lasric funding for research. Please, Mr. Tobosun Alake, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Very clearly, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to speak quickly, perhaps because I know we hadn't spoken on some of the research application criteria. To be able, and so quickly, to be able to access research funding, researchers must adhere to the following criteria. So first of all, researchers must be performing research work under an accredited university or polytechnic, under a research institution. The research organizations must be based on Nigerian research guidelines. Of course, agricultural and environmental trusts are also can also act as supporters or house research projects as well. And of course, even profit-oriented organizations do support research from time to time. It is important that researchers have that institutional backing. The reason is so that results can be validated, right? It's very important that when research is being conducted and new areas of value are being created, those areas of values must be measured, must be appropriately measured so that the value can be ascertained. So it's important that research work is supported by organizations. Where research work is being performed by a sole researcher, it is important that perhaps the researcher can register his company as a research organization, or can partner with either a profit-oriented organization or a research institution, so that the values can be validated. It is important. A lot of the calibration results that you were seeing that Professor Amuda was displaying, a lot of them were performed under conditions that were supported by the University of Lagos. And so because of those factors, it is important that research work be housed by real well-structured institutions. There are different types of research that one can engage in. You can engage in applied or basic research. Applied research usually starts with a specific hypothesis, and your work now goes on to try and prove that hypothesis. Or you can do basic research where it's more open-ended, and the hypothesis might not have been formulated in the beginning. So you are driving your work towards a particular open-ended hypothesis. But the most important thing is that your work and values are to be validated by a formal, well-structured institution. That would help ascertain value. So I hope that has cleared up some of the research criteria. So thank you, everybody. Happy applying.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you very, very much, sir. Again, wonderful to hear from you. So just before we move to the question and answer section, Mr. Tommy Davis has been very, very helpful to share a link with us so that we can be able to know the framework upon which they judge applications for innovation. If you check the chat, I'll share the link with you. Basically describes the POEM framework and how you can use this to be able to judge whether what you are building is suitable for funding from the Lasric committee. So thank you very much, sir. So at this point in time, I'm going to ask, open the floor for people to be able to ask questions. First of all, I'm going to read out 2 questions that were asked in the chat, and I'm going to ask one of them. I'm going to ask Mr. Tubosunalake, and the other one I'll try to open to see if any of the council members will be willing to answer. Sorry, sir. Someone asked the question that if there is a criteria for applying for the Lasric funding, which requires that you have an LIRS number. LIRS number. I think that's Lagos Inland Revenue Service. Now, the person wants to know, if it doesn't have this number, is it still possible to access Lasric funding, or what does he have to do if he doesn't have the LIRS number?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a good question. It's important that we are able to track and validate, some of the recipients of this funding. Also, just as a means of continued support, when we give startups funding, we do not just want to leave them there. We want to continue to support their growth. And so being able to validate that companies are doing the right things is very important. So yes, while an LIRS number is very important, if a business does not have one, it is important that they get a Lasric card, right? A Lasric card is the Lagos State Residents Registration Agency as a form of identification. It's important that some form of identification is very important. As a business, as a startup, as a registered startup, upon registration, it's important that we get LIRS cards. While that is not an outright disqualifier, we encourage startups that if they do win a grant, that they pursue the means of identification before the fund is disbursed. And just so that we're able to keep track, and we're able to make sure that all the dots all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. It's very important for reconciliation and purposes of structure. So it's not an outright disqualifier, but we do encourage startups to make sure they have their documentation in place. Have your Lasric card, and for your business, your LIRS number. They are very important. And of course, we want to make sure that people are doing the right things with their business, paying taxes and all of that. And then they can experience even continued support as they grow in their business. So it's a very important requirement.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm going to direct the next question to Mr. Peter Bankole, sir. If you're still online. Yes, he is, thankfully. Somebody wants to know, sir, what are the thematic areas under STEM that you are looking for when it regards funding that will guide proposed or aspiring applicants to know that this is the areas that we should be looking at, this is the area I'm working in, and I am more likely to get funding from Lasric within STEM, STEM framework.
Okay, thank you very much. Those areas, 6 of them, they are listed on the site itself. But more broadly is to say we're very open. The whole idea is that we do not want to also limit innovation. For instance, women in tech, somebody bringing women into the tech space, we will support that. STEM Cafe, helping children to be able to appreciate and to use things around that. We will support that. NCIC, that's talking about environment, to be able to, build our head around the earth and how we must conserve things. We will support that. So although there are about 6 or so thematic areas and they are specified on the portal, you can look at that, but honestly speaking, even if it's not, we can look at it so long as it is STEM. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you so much. The last question I have from the written point of view, so I'm going to ask Mr. Tidi. Mr. Tidi, sir, someone wants to know if I'm applying for funding through the innovation pillar, how long will it be before I get a response? And will I get a response if my application was not successful, sir?
Right. We're closing applications on 31st. And my expectation is at least maximum a week after that, all those that have been shortlisted will be notified. If you have not been successful, unfortunately, because we're short-staffed, we won't be able to, come back to you. So we're only going to be notifying those who have been successful, but I will talk to the team. I think it's the right thing to do, to notify people they've been unsuccessful, but that will not be till April.
Okay, sir.
I trust that helps.
Thanks, sir.
You mentioned earlier, I just thought I'd take the opportunity to also help people understand how my eloquent brother, Mr. Professor Bankole, has covered how we assess STEM using a framework. We do exactly the same thing with innovation, and that's why I sent out the article. We try and understand your proposition to the market, okay, and that covers the market, your customer, and the product itself. Then we try to understand your organization, who are the people behind this, what kind of unique processes are they using, and what's the underlying technology. And finally, we also try and understand the economics, which is the capital that you've acquired to date or you're looking for, the profitability of the venture, and the impact potential it has on society based on the SDGs. The last part is where you are on your journey, whether you have an MVP, as the essay was saying, or you're closer to getting product market fit, which means you've got some traction, all the way up to well, maybe you've even got channel product fit. We expect that by the time you're pre-Series A, you're out of our league and you're probably a bit too old and too mature for the grant to have an impact. I trust that helps.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you everyone. Because of time, I won't be taking any more questions. Again, to closing remarks, I am as a Lagosian and as a Nigerian, I'm really excited about what the Lasric is doing with regards funding startups and funding innovation and funding research. I think these are things that every state should emulate, and in fact, Nigeria as a whole should emulate. And I think we are, as Lagos being the flag bearer when it comes to taking the lead in driving innovation, this should be a model that everybody else should copy. And we are doing so well, and the impact of Lasric is being really felt. I know a few of my colleagues have been able to raise funding from Lasric, and now we can see that before, when startups are at the early stage of their existence, they don't usually count funding from government as a means by which they can be able to get funding or that early boost in getting their product to the market. But now, because of Lasric, they are doing so, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And I'm glad that this is something that's happening, and I hope that it continues for a long time. So at this point, I would like to say thank you everyone for coming. I thank you everyone for showing up. Please remember that this webinar is recorded and will be it's going to be recorded. I'm going to put on our website, Lasric website, on our YouTube page, so you can go back, listen to it, and check out all that have been said today. And please ensure that you go and apply for the fourth call out at Lasric. And please, if you have an innovation, reach out to anyone you can see in Lasric, just also at Eco Innovation Center. We'll be glad to help you and put you through. Thank you so much, everyone. And I bring this to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much and have a wonderful week.